Scriptures-Shemoth Exodus, the second book of Moshe. Chapter 1. And these are the names of the children of Yisra'ēl, who came to Mitsrayim with Yaakov, each one with his household: Reuben, Shimon, Lٰ�wi, and Yehudah; Issachar, Zebolun, and Binyamin; Dan and Naphtali; Gaɗ and AshЄr. And all those who were descendants of Yaakov were 70 beings, as Yosեպh was already in Mitsrayim. And Yosեպh died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. And the children of Yisra'ēl bore fruit and increased very much, multiplied and became very strong, and the land was filled with them. Then a new sovereign arose over Mitsrayim, who did not know Yosեպh. And he said to his people, "See, the people of the children of Israel are more and stronger than we. Come, let us act wisely towards them, lest they increase. And it shall be, when fighting befalls us, that they shall join our enemies and fight against us, and shall go up out of the land." So they set slave masters over them to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more increased and grew. And they were in dread of the children of Yisra'ēl. And the Mizrahites made the children of Israel serve with harshness. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar, and in brick, and in all kinds of work in the field. All their work which they made them do was with harshness. Then the sovereign of Mizraim spoke to the Hebrew wives, of whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, "When you deliver the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall put him to death. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live." But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not do as the sovereign of Mizraim commanded them, and kept the male children alive. So the sovereign of Mizraim called for the midwives, and said to them, "Why have you done this, and kept the male children alive?" And the midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Mizraite women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them." So Elohim was good to the midwives, and the people in them became very numerous. And it came to be, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he provided households for them. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Throw every son who is born into the river, and keep alive every daughter." Shemoth Exodus chapter 2. And a man of the house of Lٰ�wi went and married a daughter of Lٰ�wi. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And she saw that he was a lovely child. And she hid him 3 months. And when she could hide him no longer, she took an ark of wicker for him, and coated it with tar and pitch, and put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the edge of the river. And his sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her young women were walking by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her female servants to get it, and opened it, and saw the child, and see, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the children of the Hebrews." And his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me. Then I shall pay your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moshe, saying, "Because I have drawn him out of the water." And in those days it came to be, when Moshe was grown, that he went out to his brothers and looked at their burdens. And he saw a Mizrahite beating a Hebrew, one of his brothers. So he turned this way and that way, and when she saw no one, he smote the Mizrahites and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day, and saw 2 Hebrew men fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, "Why do you smite your neighbor?" And he said, "Who made you a head and a judge over us?" Do you intend to slay me as you slew the Mizrite? And Moshe feared and said, Truly the matter is known. And Pharaoh heard of this matter, and he sought to kill Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. And the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. But the shepherds came and drove them away. Then Moshe stood up and came to their rescue, and watered their flock. And they came to Reuel, their father, and he said, How is it that you have come so soon today? And they said, A Mizrite rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. And he said to his daughters, And where is he? Why did you leave the man? Call him and let him eat bread. And Moshe agreed to dwell with the man, and he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moshe. And she bore him a son, and he called his name Gershom. And for he said, I have become a sojourner in a foreign land. And it came to be after these many days that the sovereign of Mitsrayim died. And the children of Israel groaned because of this slavery, and they cried out. And their cry came up to Elohim because of the slavery. And Elohim heard their groaning, and Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Ishak, and with Yaakov. And Elohim looked on the children of Israel, and Elohim knew. Shemoth Exodus chapter 3. And Moshe was shepherding the flock of Yitro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. And the messenger of Yahuwah appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked and saw the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, Let me turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. And Yahuwah saw that he turned aside to see. And Elohim called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is set apart ground. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Ishak, and the Elohim of Yaakov. And Moshe hid his face, for he was afraid to look at Elohim. And Yahuwah said, I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mizrayim, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers, for I know their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mizrites, and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. And now, see, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Mizrites oppress them. And now come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Mizraim. And Moshe said to Elohim, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mizraim? And he said, Because I am with you, and this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mizraim, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain. And Moshe said to Elohim, See, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, The Elohim of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? And Elohim said to Moshe, I am that which I am. And he said, Thus you shall say to the children of Yisra'eel, I am has sent me to you. And Elohim said further to Moshe, Thus you are to say to the children of Israel, Yahuwah Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Ishak, and the Elohim of Yaakov has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. Go, and you shall gather the elders of Israel together, and say to them, Yahuwah Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, of Ishak, and of Yaakov, appeared to me, saying, I have indeed visited you and seen what is done to you in Mizraim. And I say, I am bringing you up out of the affliction of Mitsrayim to the land of the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Amorite and the Perizzite and the Hivite and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Yisra'ٰēl, to the sovereign of Mitsrayim, and you shall say to him, Yahuwah, Elohim of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now please, let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness to slaughter to Yahuwah our Elohim. But I know that the sovereign of Mitsrayim is not going to let you go, not even by a strong hand. And I shall stretch out my hand and smite Mitsrayim with all my wonders, which I shall do in its midst. And after that I shall let you go. And I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Mizrites. And it shall be that when you go, you shall not go empty-handed. But every woman shall ask from her neighbor and from the stranger in her house objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and shall plunder the Mizrites. Shemoth Chapter 4, Exodus. And Moshe answered and said, And if they do not believe me, nor listen to my voice, and say, Yahuwah has not appeared to you? And Yahuwah said to him, What is that in your hand? And he said, A rod. And he said, Throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moshe fled from it. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So he reached out his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, so that they believed that Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Ishak, and the Elohim of Yaakov has appeared to you. And Yahuwah said to him again, Now put your hand in your bosom. And he put his hand in his bosom. And when he took it out, and see, his hand was leprous like snow. And he said, Put your hand in your bosom again. So he put his hand in his bosom again, and drew it out of his bosom, and see, it was restored like his other flesh. And it shall be, if they do not believe you, nor listen to the voice of the first sign, they shall believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall be, if they do not believe even these 2 signs, or listen to your voice, that you shall take water from the river and pour it on the dry land. And the water which you take from the river shall become blood on the dry land. And Moshe said to Yahuwah, O Yahuwah, I am not a man of words, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And Yahuwah said to him, Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes dumb or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, Yahuwah? And now go, and I shall be with your mouth and teach you what to say. But he said, O Yahuwah, please send by the hand of him whom you would send. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Moshe. And he said, Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he speaks well. And see, he is also coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, he shall be glad in his heart. And you shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. And I am with your mouth and with his mouth, and I shall teach you what to do. And he shall speak for you to the people, and it shall be that he shall be a mouth for you, and you shall be an Elohim for him. And take this rod in your hand, with which you shall do the signs. Then Moshe went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, Please let me go and return to my brothers, who are in Mitsrayim, to see whether they are still alive. And Jethro said to Moshe, Go in peace. And Yahuwah said to Moshe in Midian, Go, return to Mitsrayim, for all the men are dead who sought your life. So Moshe took his wife and his sons, and set them on a donkey. And he returned to the land of Mitsrayim. And Moshe took the rod of Elohim in his hand. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, As you go back to Mitsrayim, see that you do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand. But I am going to harden his heart, so that he does not let the people go. And you shall say to Pharaoh, Thus said Yahuwah, Yisra'ēl is my son, my firstborn. So I say to you, let my son go to serve me. But if you refuse to let him go, see, I am killing your son, your firstborn. And it came to be on the way in the lodging place that Yahuwah met him and sought to kill him. And Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and threw it at Moshe's feet and said, you are indeed a bridegroom of blood to me. So he let him go. Then she said, you are a bridegroom of blood because of the circumcision. And Yahuwah said to Aaron, go to meet Moshe in the wilderness. And he went and met him on the mountain of Elohim and kissed him. Moshe then told Aaron all the words of Yahuwah, who had sent him, and all the signs which he had commanded him. And Moshe went with Aaron and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spoke all the words which Yahuwah had spoken to Moshe. Then he did the signs before the eyes of the people. And the people believed, and they heard that Yahuwah had visited the children of Israel, and that he had looked on their affliction. And they bowed their heads and did obedience. Shema, Exodus chapter 5. And afterwards Moshe and Aaron went in and said to Pharaoh, thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisra'ელ, let my people go, so that they keep a festival to me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is Yahuwah, that I should obey his voice and let Yisra'ėl go? I do not know Yahuwah, nor am I going to let Yisra'ėl go. And they said, the Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. Please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and slaughter to Yahuwah our Elohim, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. But the sovereign of Mitsrayim said to them, Moshe and Aaron, why do you take the people from their work? Get back to your burdens. And Pharaoh said, see, the people of the land are many now, and you make them cease from their burdens. And the same day Pharaoh commanded the slave drivers of the people and their foremen, saying, you are no longer to give the people straw to make bricks as before. Let them go and gather straw for themselves, and lay on them the required amount of bricks which they made before. Do not diminish it, for they are idle. That is why they cry out, saying, let us go and slaughter to our Elohim. Let more work be laid on the men, so that they labor in it, and not pay attention to words of falsehood. And the slave drivers of the people and their foremen went out and spoke to the people, saying, thus said Pharaoh, I do not give you straw. Go, take straw for yourselves, wherever you find it, for your work shall not be diminished. And the people were scattered in all the land of Mitsrayim, to gather stubble for straw. And the slave drivers were hurrying them on, saying, complete your work, your daily amount, as when there was straw. Also the foremen of the children of Yisra'ėl, whom Pharaoh's slave drivers had set over them, were beaten and were asked, why have you not completed your task in making bricks, both yesterday and today as before? And the foreman of the children of Yisra'ėl came and cried out to Pharaoh, saying, why do you treat your servants this way? There is no straw given to your servants. And they say to us, make bricks? And see, your servants are beaten, but your own people are at fault. But he said, you are idle. You are idle. That is why you say, let us go and slaughter to Yahuwah. So now go work, and straw is not given to you, but deliver the amount of bricks. And the foreman of the children of Yisra'ėl saw that they were in trouble after it was said, you are not to diminish your daily amount of bricks. And when they came out from Pharaoh, they met Moshe and Aaron, who stood there to meet them. And they said to them, let Yahuwah look on you and judge, because you have made us loathsome in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants, to give a sword in their hand to kill us. And Moshe returned to Yahuwah and said, Yahuwah, why have you done evil to this people? Why did you send me? For ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you have not delivered your people at all. Shemoth chapter 6. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Now see what I do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand he is going to let them go. And with a strong hand he is going to drive them out of his land. And Elohim spoke to Moshe and said to him, I am Yahuwah. And I appeared to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob as El Shaddai. And by my name Yahuwah was I not known to them. And I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their sojournings in which they have sojourned. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Yisra'eel, whom the Mitsrayites are enslaving, and I have remembered my covenant. Say therefore to the children of Yisra'eel, I am Yahuwah, and I shall bring you out from under the burdens of the Mitsrayites, and shall deliver you from their enslaving, and shall redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments, and shall take you as my people, and I shall be your Elohim, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah, your Elohim, who is bringing you out from under the burdens of the Mitsrayites. And I shall bring you into the land which I swore to give to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob, to give it to you as an inheritance. I am Yahuwah. And Moshe spoke thus to the children of Israel, but they did not listen to Moshe, because of shortness of spirit, and from hard slavery. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Go in, speak to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitsrayim, to let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Moshe spoke before Yahuwah, saying, The children of Israel have not listened to me. And why would Pharaoh listen to me? For I am of uncircumcised lips. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, and gave them a command for the children of Israel, and for Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitsrayim, to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Mitsrayim. These are the heads of their fathers' houses, the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok, and Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. These are the clan of Reuben. And the sons of Shimon, Yemuel, and Yamin, and Ohad, and Yakin, and Zahor, and Shual, the son of a Canaanite woman. These are the clans of Shimon. These are the names of the sons of Levi according to their generations, Gershon, and Kuat, and Merah. And the years of the life of Levi were 137. The sons of Gershon, Libnah, and Shimei, according to their clans. And the sons of Quihat, Amram, and Yitshar, and Hebron, and Uziel. And the years of the life of Quihat were 133. And the sons of Merah, Mahlah, and Mushi. These are the clans of Levi according to their generations. And Amram took for himself Jochebed, his father's sister, as wife, and she bore him Aaron and Moshe. And the years of the life of Amram were 137. And the sons of Yitshar, Kurah, and Nepheg, and Zechariah, and the sons of Uziel, Mishael, and Elteshophan, and Sitra. Aaron took to himself Elishabeth, daughter of Amminadab, sister of Nahshon, as wife, and she bore him Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. And the sons of Korah, Asar, Elkanah, and Abiyasaph. These are the clans of the Korahites. And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took for himself one of the daughters of Putiel as wife, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites, according to their clans. This is Aaron and Moshe, to whom Yahuwah said, Bring out the children of Israel from the land of Mitsrayim, according to their divisions. They were the ones who spoke to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitsrayim, to bring out the children of Yisra'eel from Mitsrayim. This is Moshe and Aaron. And it came to be on the day when Yahuwah spoke to Moshe in the land of Mitsrayim, that Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, I am Yahuwah. Speak to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitsrayim, all that I say to you. And Moshe said before Yahuwah, See, I am of uncircumcised lips, And why would Pharaoh listen to me? Shemoth Exodus chapter 7. So Yahuwah said to Moshe, See, I have made you an Elohim to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother is your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you, and Aaron your brother shall speak to Pharaoh to let the children of Yisra'ელ go out of his land. But I am going to harden the heart of Pharaoh, and shall increase my signs and my wonders in the land of Mitsrayim. And Pharaoh is not going to listen to you. And I shall lay my hands on Mitsrayim and bring my divisions and my people, the children of Yisra'ėl, out of the land of Mitsrayim by great judgments. And the Mizrahites shall know that I am Yahuwah when I stretch out my hand on Mitsrayim, and I shall bring the children of Yisra'ėl out from among them. And Moshe and Aaron did as Yahuwah commanded them, so they did. Now Moshe was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 years old, when they spoke to Pharaoh. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, When Pharaoh speaks to you, saying, Show a miracle for yourselves, then you shall say to Aaron, Take your rod and throw it before Pharaoh, and let it become a serpent. So Moshe and Aaron went in to Pharaoh, and they did so, as Yahuwah commanded. And Aaron threw his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. But Pharaoh also called the wise men and the practitioners of witchcraft, and they, the magicians of Mitsrayim, also did so with their magic. And they each one threw down his rod, and they became serpents. But the rod of Aaron swallowed up their rods, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And he did not listen to them, as Yahuwah had said. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, The heart of Pharaoh is hard. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he goes out to the water, and you shall stand by the river bank to meet him. And take in your hand the rod which was turned into a serpent. And you shall say to him, Yahuwah, the Elohim of the Hebrews, has sent me to you, saying, Let my people go, so that they serve me in the wilderness. But see, until now you have not listened. Thus said Yahuwah, By this you know that I am Yahuwah. See, I am striking the waters which are in the river with the rod that is in my hand, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Mizrahites shall find it impossible to drink the water of the river. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, Say to Aaron, Take your rod and stretch out your hand over the waters of Mizraim, over their streams, over their rivers, over their ponds, and over all their pools of water, and they become blood. And there shall be blood in all the land of Mizraim, both in wooden and in stone containers. And Moshe and Aaron did so as Yahuwah commanded. And he lifted up the rod and struck the waters that were in the river, in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants. And all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that were in the river died, and the river stank. And the Mizrahites were unable to drink the water of the river. And the blood was in all the land of Mizraim. And the magicians of Mizraim did the same with their magic. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not listen to them, as Yahuwah had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, and his heart was not moved by this either. And all the Mizrahites dug all around the river for water to drink, for they were unable to drink the water of the river. And 7 days were completed after Yahuwah had struck the river. Shemoth Exodus chapter 8. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus said Yahuwah, Let my people go, so that they serve me. But if you refuse to let them go, see, I am smiting all your border with frogs, and the river shall swarm with frogs, which shall go up and shall come into your house, and into your bedroom, and on your bed, and into the houses of your servants, and on your people, and into your ovens, and into your kneading bowls. and the frogs shall come up on you and on your people and on all your servants. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up on the land of Mitsrayim. So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Mitsrayim, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Mitsrayim. And the magicians did so with their magic and brought up frogs on the land of Mitsrayim. Pharaoh then called for Moshe and Aaron and said, pray to Yahuwah to take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I shall let the people go to slaughter to Yahuwah. And Moshe said to Pharaoh, explain yourself to me. When am I to pray for you and for your servants and for your people to destroy the frogs from you and your houses and remain only in the river? So he said, tomorrow. And he said, let it be according to your word, so that you know that there is no one like Yahuwah our Elohim. And the frogs shall turn aside from you and from your houses and from your servants and from your people. They shall remain in the river only. And Moshe and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moshe cried to Yahuwah concerning the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. And Yahuwah did according to the word of Moshe, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the courtyards, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together in heaps, and the land stank. And when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he hardened his heart, and did not listen to them, as Yahuwah had said. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, say to Aaron, stretch out your rod and strike the dust of the land, so that it becomes gnats in all the land of Mitsrayim. And they did so. And Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and struck the dust of the earth, and it became gnats on man and beast. All the dust of the land became gnats in all the land of Mitsrayim. And the magicians did similarly with their magic to bring forth gnats. But they were unable, and there were gnats on man and beast. The magicians then said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of Elohim. But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not listen to them as Yahuwah had said. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh as he comes out to the water, and say to him, thus said Yahuwah, let my people go, so that they serve me. Or else, if you do not let my people go, see, I am sending swarms of flies on you and your servants and on your people and into your houses. And the houses of the Mizrites shall be filled with swarms of flies, and also the ground on which they stand. And in that day I shall separate the land of Goshen in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, so that you know that I am Yahuwah in the midst of the land. And I shall put a distinction between my people and your people. Tomorrow this sign shall be. And Yahuwah did so. And thick swarms of flies came into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Mitsrayim. And the land was ruined because of the swarms of flies. Pharaoh then called for Moshe and Aaron and said, go slaughter to your Elohim in the land. And Moshe said, it is not right to do so, for we would be slaughtering the abomination of the Mizrites to Yahuwah, our Elohim. See, if we slaughter the abomination of the Mizrites before their eyes, would they not stone us? Let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness. Then we shall slaughter to Yahuwah, our Elohim, as he commands us. And Pharaoh said, I am letting you go. Then you shall slaughter to Yahuwah, your Elohim, in the wilderness. Only do not go very far away. Pray for me. And Moshe said, see, when I leave you, I shall pray to Yahuwah, and tomorrow the swarms of flies shall depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. But do not let Pharaoh again deceive, not to let the people go to slaughter to Yahuwah. And Moshe went out from Pharaoh and prayed to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah did according to the word of Moshe, and removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. Not one remained. But Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time too, and did not let the people go.
Shemoth Exodus chapter 9. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Go in to Pharaoh and speak to him. Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of the Hebrews, Let my people go, so that they serve me. For if you refuse to let them go and still hold them, see, the hand of Yahuwah is on your livestock in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the cattle, and on the sheep, a very grievous pestilence. And Yahuwah shall separate between the livestock of Yisra'Єl and the livestock of Mitsrayim. And let no matter die of all that belongs to the children of Yisra'Єl. And Yahuwah set an appointed time, saying, Tomorrow Yahuwah is going to do this word in the land. And Yahuwah did this word on the next day, and all the livestock of Mitsrayim died, but of the livestock of the children of Israel not one died. Then Pharaoh sent, and see, not even one of the livestock of the Israelites was dead. But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go. And Yahuwah said to Moshe and Aaron, Fill your hands with ashes from a furnace, and let Moshe scatter it toward the heavens before the eyes of Pharaoh. And it shall become fine dust in all the land of Mitsrayim, and it shall cause boils that break out in sores on man and beast in all the land of Mitsrayim. So they took ashes from the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moshe scattered them toward the heavens. And they caused boils breaking out in sores on man and beast. And the magicians were unable to stand before Moshe because of the boils, for the boils were on the magicians and on all the Mizrites. But Yahuwah hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not listen to them, as Yahuwah had said to Moshe. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Rise early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh, and say to him, Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of the Hebrews, Let my people go, so that they serve me. For at this time I am sending all my plagues unto your heart, and on your servants, and on your people, so that you know that there is no one like me in all the earth. Now if I had stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, then you would have been cut off from the earth. And for this reason I have raised you up, in order to show you my power, and in order to declare my name in all the earth. You still exalt yourself against my people, in that you do not let them go. See, tomorrow about this time I am causing very heavy hail to rain down, such as has not been in Mizraim from the day of its founding until now. And now bring your livestock to safety, and all that you have in the field, for the hail shall come down on every man, and every beast which is found in the field, and is not brought home, and they shall die. Those among the servants of Pharaoh who feared the word of Yahuwah made their servants and livestock flee to the houses. But those who did not set their heart on the word of Yahuwah left their servants and livestock in the field. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, Stretch out your hand toward the heavens, and let there be hail in all the land of Mitsrayim, on man and on beast, and on every plant of the field throughout the land of Mitsrayim. Then Moshe stretched out his rod toward the heavens, and Yahuwah sent thunder and hail, and fire came down to the earth, and Yahuwah rained hail on the land of Mitsrayim. Thus there came to be hail and fire, flashing continually in the midst of the hail. very heavy, such as had not been in all the land of Mitsrayim since it became a nation. And the hail smote in all the land of Mitsrayim, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail smote every plant of the field, and broke every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Yisra'ელ were, there was no hail. Pharaoh then sent and called for Moshe and for Aaron, and said to them, I have sinned this time. Yahuwah is righteous, and my people and I are wrong. Pray to Yahuwah, for there has been enough of the thunder and hail of Elohim, and I am letting you go, so that you stay no longer. And Moshe said to him, As soon as I go out of the city, let me spread out my hands to Yahuwah. Let the thunder cease and the hail be no more, so that you know that the earth belongs to Yahuwah. But as for you and your servants, I know that you do not yet fear before Yahuwah Elohim. And the flax and the barley were smitten, for the barley was in the head and the flax was in bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not smitten, for they were late crops. And Moshe went out of the city from Pharaoh, and spread out his hands to Yahuwah. And the thunder and the hail ceased, and the rain was not poured on the earth. And Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased. Yet he sinned again, and he hardened his heart, he and his servants. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the children of Israel go, as Yahuwah had said through Moshe. Shemoth Exodus chapter 10. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Go in to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his servants, so that I show these signs of mine before him, and that you relate in the hearing of your son and your son's son what I have done in Mitsrayim, and my signs which I have done among them, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And Moshe and Aaron came in to Pharaoh and said to him, And thus said Yahuwah Elohim of the Hebrews, Till when shall you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, so that they serve me. Or else, if you refuse to let my people go, see, tomorrow I am bringing locusts within your borders, and they shall cover the surface of the land, so that no one is able to see the land. And they shall eat the rest of what has escaped, which remains to you from the hail, and they shall eat every tree which grows up for you out of the field. And they shall fill your houses, and the houses of all your servants, and the houses of all the Mizrites, which neither your fathers nor your fathers' fathers have seen, since the day that they were on the earth to this day. Then he turned and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said to him, Till when would this one be a snare to us? Let the men go, so that they serve Yahuwah their Elohim. Do you not yet know that Mitsrayim is destroyed? And Moshe and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, Go, serve Yahuwah your Elohim, who are the ones that are going. And Moshe said, We are going with our young and our old, and with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and our herds. We are going, for we have a festival to Yahuwah. And he said to them, Let Yahuwah be with you as I let you and your little ones go. Watch, for evil is before your face. Not so. You men go now and serve Yahuwah, for that is what you desired. And they were driven out from the presence of Pharaoh. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Stretch out your hand over the land of Mitsrayim, for the locusts to come upon the land of Mitsrayim, and eat every plant of the land, all that the hail has left. And Moshe stretched out his rod over the land of Mitsrayim. And Yahuwah brought an east wind on the land all that day and all that night. Morning came, and the east wind brought the locusts. And the locusts went up over all the land of Mitsrayim, and settled within all the borders of Mitsrayim, very grievous. There had never been locusts like them before, nor would they again be like them. And they covered the surface of all the land, so that the land was darkened. And they ate every plant of the land and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and no greenness was left on the trees or on the plants of the field in all the land of Mitsrayim. Pharaoh then called for Moshe and Aaron in haste and said, I have sinned against Yahuwah, your Elohim, and against you. And now, please forgive my sin only this once, and pray to Yahuwah, your Elohim, that he would only turn away his death from me. And he went out from Pharaoh and prayed to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah turned a very strong west wind, which took the locusts away, and blew them into the sea of reeds. Not one locust was left within all the border of Mitsrayim. However, Yahuwah hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not let the children of Yisra'ელ go. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, stretch out your hand toward the heavens, and let there be darkness over the land of Mitsrayim, even a darkness which is felt. And Moshe stretched out his hand toward the heavens, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Mitsrayim for 3 days. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days, while all the children of Yisra'ელ had light in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called to Moshe and said, go serve Yahuwah, only leave your flocks and your herds behind. Let your little ones go with you too. But Moshe said, you yourself are to provide us with slaughterings and burnt offerings to prepare for Yahuwah our Elohim. And our livestock are to go with us too. Not a hoof is to be left behind. For we have to take some of them to serve Yahuwah our Elohim, and we ourselves do not know with what we are to serve Yahuwah until we come there. However, Yahuwah hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said to him, get away from me, watch yourself, and see my face no more. For in the day you see my face, you die. And Moshe said, you have spoken rightly. Never again do I see your face.
Exodus-Shemoth Chapter 11. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, I am bringing yet one more plague on Pharaoh and on Mitsrayim. After that he is going to let you go from here. When he lets you go, he shall drive you out from here altogether. Speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor, and every woman from her neighbor, objects of silver and objects of gold. And Yahuwah gave the people favor in the eyes of the Mizrites. And the man Moshe was very great in the land of Mitsrayim, in the eyes of Pharaoh's servants, and in the eyes of the people. And Moshe said, thus said Yahuwah, about midnight I am going out into the midst of Mitsrayim, and all the firstborn in the land of Mitsrayim shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of cattle. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Mitsrayim, such as has never been or ever be again. But against any of the children of Yisrael no dog shall move its tongue, against man or against beast, so that you know that Yahuwah makes distinction between Mizraim and Yisra'eel. And all these servants of yours shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, get out, you and all the people at your feet. And after that I shall go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in great displeasure. But Yahuwah said to Moshe, Pharaoh is not going to listen to you in order to multiply my wonders in the land of Mitsrayim. And Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh. However, Yahuwah hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Shemoth Exodus chapter 12. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mizrayim, saying, this month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings, according to each man's need. you make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Yisra'ėl shall kill it between the evenings. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boil at all with water, but roast it in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave of it until morning. And what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Passover of Yahuwah. And I shall pass through the land of Mitsrayim on that night, and shall smite all the firstborn in the land of Mitsrayim, both man and beast, and on all the mighty ones of Mitsrayim. I shall execute judgment. I am Yahuwah. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Mitsrayim. And this day shall become to you a remembrance, and you shall observe it as a festival to Yahuwah throughout your generations. Observe it as a festival, an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you cause leaven to cease from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day unto the 7th day, that being shall be cut off from Yisra'ėl. And on the first day is a set-apart gathering, and on the 7th day you have a set-apart gathering. No work at all is done on them, only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared for you. And you shall guard the festival of unleavened bread, for on this same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mitsrayim, and you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law. In the 1st month, on the 14th day of the month, in the evening you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month in the evening. For 7 days no leaven is to be found in your houses. For if anyone eats what is leavened, that same being shall be cut off from the congregation of Yisra'ėl, whether sojourner or native of the land. Do not eat that which is leavened. In all your dwellings you are to eat unleavened bread. And Moshe called for all the elders of Yisra'ėl and said to them, Go out and take lambs for yourselves according to your clans, and slaughter the Passover lamb. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And you, none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. And Yahuwah shall pass on to smite the Mizrites, and shall see the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts. And Yahuwah shall pass over the door, and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to smite you. And you shall guard this word as a law for you and your sons forever. And it shall be when you come to the land which Yahuwah gives you, as he promised, that you shall guard this service. And it shall be when your children say to you, What does this service mean to you? Then you shall say, It is the Passover slaughtering of Yahuwah, who passed over the houses of the children of Yisrael in Mitsrayim, when he smote the Mizrites and delivered our households. And the people bowed their heads and did obedience. And the children of Yisrael went away and did so, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe to Aaron, so they did. And it came to be at midnight that Yahuwah smote all the firstborn in the land of Mitsrayim, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Mizrites, and there was a great cry in Mizraim, for there was not a house where there was not a dead one. Then he called for Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, Arise, go out from the midst of my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve Yahuwah as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds as you have said, and go. Then you shall bless me too. And the Mizrites urged the people to hasten to send them away out of the land, for they said, We are all dying. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their garments on their shoulders. And the children of Yisra'ėl had done according to the word of Moshe, and they had asked from the Mitsrayim objects of silver and objects of gold and garments. And Yahuwah gave the people favor in the eyes of Mitsrayim, so that they gave them what they asked, and they plundered the Mitsrayim. And the children of Yisrael set out from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones. And a mixed multitude went up with them too, also flocks and herds, very much livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Mitsrayim, for it was not leavened, since they were driven out of Mitsrayim, and had not been able to delay, nor had they prepared food for themselves. And the sojourn of the children of Yisrael, who lived in Mitsrayim, was 430 years. And it came to be at the end of the 430 years, on that same day it came to be that all the divisions of Yahuwah went out from the land of Mitsrayim. It is a night to be observed unto Yahuwah for bringing them out of the land of Mitsrayim. This night is unto Yahuwah to be observed by all the children of Israel throughout their generations. And Yahuwah said to Moshe and Aaron, this is the law of the Passover. No son of a stranger is to eat of it, but any servant a man has brought for silver, when you have circumcised him, then let him eat of it. A sojourner and a hired servant does not eat of it. It is eaten in one house. You are not to take any of the flesh outside the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. All the congregation of Israel are to perform it. And when a stranger sojourns with you and shall perform the Passover to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and perform it. And he shall be as a native of the land, but let no uncircumcised eat of it. There is one Torah for the native born, and for the stranger who sojourns among you. And all the children of Israel did as Yahuwah commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did. And it came to be on that same day that Yahuwah brought the children of Israel out of the land of Mitsrayim according to their divisions. Shemoth Exodus chapter 13. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, set apart to me all the firstborn, the one opening the womb among the children of Israel, among man and among beast, it is mine. And Moshe said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Mitsrayim, out of the house of slavery. For by strength of hand Yahuwah brought you out of this place, and whatever is leavened shall not be eaten. Today you are going out in the month aqoďb. And it shall be when Yahuwah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day is a festival to Yahuwah. Unleavened bread is to be eaten the 7 days, and whatever is leavened is not to be seen with you. And leaven is not to be seen with you within all your border. And you shall inform your son in that day, saying, it is because of what Yahuwah did for me when I came up from Mitsrayim. And it shall be as a sign to you on your hand, and a reminder between your eyes, that the Torah of Yahuwah is to be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yahuwah has brought you out of Mitsrayim. And you shall guard this law at its appointed time from year to year. And it shall be when Yahuwah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and gives it to you, that you shall pass over to Yahuwah every one opening the womb, and every firstborn that comes from your livestock. The males belong to Yahuwah. But every firstborn of a donkey you are to ransom with a lamb. And if you do not ransom it, then you shall break its neck. And every firstborn of man among your sons you are to ransom. And it shall be when your son asks you to in time to come, saying, what is this? Then you shall say to him, by strength of hand Yahuwah brought us out of Mitsrayim, out of the house of bondage. And it came to be, when Pharaoh was too hardened to let us go, that Pharaoh killed every firstborn in the land of Mitsrayim, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I am slaughtering to Yahuwah every male that opened the womb, but every firstborn of my sons I ransom. And it shall be as a sign on your hand, and as frontlets between your eyes. For by strength of hand Yahuwah brought us out of Mitsrayim. And it came to be, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that Elohim did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, though that was nearer. For Elohim said, lest the people regret when they see fighting, and return to Mizraim. So Elohim led the people around by way of the wilderness of the Sea of Reeds. And the children of Yisra'ელ went up armed from the land of Mizraim. And Moshe took the bones of Yosեպh with him, for he certainly made the children of Yisrael swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring my bones from here with you. And they departed from Succoth, and camped in Etham, at the edge of the wilderness. And Yahuwah went before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a column of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. The column of cloud did not cease by day, nor the column of fire by night before the people. Shema, Exodus chapter 14. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael that they turn and camp before Pi Haharoth, between Migdal and the sea opposite Baal Zephon. Camp before it by the sea. For Pharaoh shall say of the children of Yisrael, They are entangled in the land, the wilderness has closed them in. And I shall harden the heart of Pharaoh, and he shall pursue them. But I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh and over all his army, and the Mizrahites shall know that I am Yahuwah. And they did so. And it was reported to the sovereign of Mizraim that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said, Why have we done this, that we have let Yisrael go from serving us? So he made his chariot ready, and took his people with him. And he took 600 choice chariots, and all the chariots of Mizraim, with officers over all of them. And you will harden the heart of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim, and he pursued the children of Yisrael. But the children of Yisrael went out defiantly, and the Mizrahites pursued them, and all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them, camping by the sea beside Pi Hahiroth, before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Yisrael lifted their eyes and saw the Mizrahites coming up after them. And they were greatly afraid. So the children of Yisrael cried out to Yahuwah. And they said to Moshe, Did you take us away to die in the wilderness, because there are no graves in Mizraim? What is this you have done to us to bring us up out of Mizraim? Is this not the word that we spoke to you in Mizraim, saying, Leave us alone and let us serve the Mizrahites? For it would have been better for us to serve the Mizrahites than to die in the wilderness. And Moshe said to the people, Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the deliverance of Yahuwah, which he does for you today. For the Mizrahites whom you see today, you are never to see again. Yahuwah does fight for you, and you keep still. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Why do you cry to me? Speak to the children of Israel, and let them go forward. And you, lift up your rod, and stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it, and let the children of Israel go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I am hardening the hearts of the Mizrahites, and they shall follow them. And I am to be esteemed through Pharaoh and over all his army, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Mizrahites shall know that I am Yahuwah, when I am esteemed through Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. And the messenger of Elohim who went before the camp of Yisrael moved and went behind them. And the column of cloud went from before them and stood behind them, and came between the camp of the Mizrahites and the camp of Yisrael. And it was a cloud in the darkness, and it gave light by night, and the one did not come near the other all night. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahuwah caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land. and the waters were divided. And the children of Yisra'eel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. And the Mizrahites pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all the horses of Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to be in the morning watch that Yahuwah looked down upon the army of the Mizrahites through the column of fire and cloud. And he brought the army of the Mizrahites into confusion. And he took off their chariot wheels, so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Mizrahites said, Let us flee from the face of Yisra'eel, for Yahuwah fights for them against the Mizrahites. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, Stretch out your hand over the sea, and let the waters come back upon the Mizrahites, on their chariots and on their horsemen. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its usual flow at the break of day, with the Mizrahites fleeing into it. Thus Yahuwah overthrew the Mizrahites in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots, and the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them, and not even one was left of them. And the children of Yisrael walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right and on their left. Thus Yahuwah saved Yisrael that day out of the hand of the Mizrahites. And Yisrael saw the Mizrahites dead on the seashore. And Yisrael saw the great work which Yahuwah had done to Mitsrayim. And the people feared Yahuwah and believed Yahuwah and his servant Moshe. Shemoth Exodus chapter 15. Then Moshe and the children of Yisrael sang this song to Yahuwah, and spoke, saying, I sing to Yahuwah, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my deliverance. He is my El, and I praise him. Elohim of my father, and I exalt him. Yahuwah is a man of battle. Yahuwah is his name. He has cast Pharaoh's chariots and his army into the sea, and his chosen officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. The depth covered them to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has become great in power. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has crushed the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellence, you pulled down those who rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath. It consumed them like stubble. And with the wind of your nostrils, the water heaped up. The floods stood like a wall. The depths became stiff in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I pursue, I overtake, I divide the spoil. My being is satisfied on them. I draw out my sword. My hand destroys them. You did blow with your wind. The sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Yahuwah, among the mighty ones? Who is like you, great in set-apartness, awesome in praises, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand. The earth swallowed them. In your kindness you led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength you guided them to your set-apart dwelling. Peoples heard, they trembled. Anguish gripped the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the chiefs of Edom were troubled. The mighty men of Moab, trembling, gripped them all. The inhabitants of Canaan. Fear and dread fell on them. By the greatness of your arm they are as silent as a stone, until your people pass over, O Yahuwah, until the people whom you have bought pass over. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Yahuwah, which you have made for your own dwelling, the set-apart place, O Yahuwah, which your hands have prepared. Yahuwah reigns forever and ever. For the horses of Pharaoh went with his chariots and his horsemen into the sea, and Yahuwah brought back the waters of the sea upon them. And the children of Yisrael went on dry ground in the midst of the sea. And Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women who went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam answered them, Sing to Yahuwah, for he is mighty, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. And Moshe brought Yisra'ელ from the sea of reeds, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And they came to Marah, and they were unable to drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. So the name of it was called Marah. And the people grumbled against Moshe, saying, What are we to drink? Then he cried out to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah showed him a tree. And when he threw it into the waters were made sweet. There he made a law and a right ruling for them, and there he tried them. And he said, If you diligently obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, and do what is right in his eyes, and shall listen to his commands, and shall guard all his laws, I shall bring on you none of the diseases I brought on the Mitsrayites, for I am Yahuwah who heals you. And they came to Elam, where there were 12 fountains of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there by the waters.
Shemoth Exodus chapter 16. And they set out from Elam, and all the congregation of the children of Yisra'eel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elam and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month. They are going out of the land of Mitsrayim. And all the congregation of the children of Yisra'eel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Yisra'eel said to them, If only we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Mitsrayim, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to satisfaction. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to put all this assembly to death with hunger. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, See, I am raining bread from the heavens for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, in order to try them, whether they walk in my Torah or not. And it shall be on the 6th day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moshe and Aaron said to all the children of Yisrael, At evening you shall know that Yahuwah has brought you out of the land of Mitsrayim. And in the morning you shall see the esteem of Yahuwah, for he hears your grumblings against Yahuwah. And what are we that you grumble against us? And Moshe said, In that Yahuwah gives you meat to eat in the evening and in the morning, bread to satisfaction, for Yahuwah hears your grumblings which you make against him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against Yahuwah. And Moshe said to Aaron, Say to all the congregation of the children of Israel, Come near before Yahuwah, for he has heard your grumblings. And it came to be, as Aaron spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and see, the esteem of Yahuwah appeared in the cloud. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, I have heard the grumblings of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, Between the evenings you are to eat meat, and in the morning you are to be satisfied with bread. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. And it came to be that quails came up at evening and covered the camp. And in the morning the dew lay all around the camp. And the layer of dew went up, and see, on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance, as fine as frost on the ground. And the children of Israel saw, and they said to each other, What is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moshe said to them, It is the bread which Yahuwah has given you to eat. This is the word which Yahuwah has commanded. Let every man gather it according to each one's need, and omer for each being, according to the number of beings. Let every man take for those who are in his tent. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered some more some less. And they measured it by omars. And he who gathered much did not have too much, and he who gathered little did not have too little. Each one gathered according to his need. And Moshe said, Let no one leave any of it until morning. And they did not listen to Moshe. So some of them left part of it until morning. And it bred worms and stank. And Moshe was wroth with them. And they gathered it every morning, each one according to his need. And when the sun became hot, it melted. And it came to be on the 6th day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omars for each one. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moshe. And he said to them, This is what Yahuwah has said. Tomorrow is a rest, a Sabbath set apart to Yahuwah. That which you bake, bake, and that which you cook, cook, and lay up for yourselves all that is left over, to keep it until morning. And they laid it up till morning, as Moshe commanded, and it did not stink, and no worm was in it. And Moshe said, Eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to Yahuwah. Today you do not find it in the field. Gather in 6 days, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, there is none. And it came to be that some of the people went out on the 7th day to gather, but they found none. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, How long shall you refuse to guard my commands and my Torah? See, because Yahuwah has given you the Sabbath, therefore he has given you bread for 2 days on the 6th day. Let each one stay in his place. Do not let anyone go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. And the house of Yisra'ėl called its name manna, and it was like white coriander seed, and the taste of it was like thin cakes made with honey. And Moshe said, This is the word which Yahuwah has commanded. Fill an omar with it to keep for your generations, so that they see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Mitsrayim. And Moshe said to Aaron, Take a pot and put an omar of manna in it, and set it down before Yahuwah to keep for your generations. As Yahuwah commanded Moshe, so did Aaron set it down before the witness to keep. And the children of Yisrael ate manna 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. And an omar is 1/10 of an ephah. Shemoth Exodus chapter 17. And all the congregation of the children of Yisrael set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, according to the command of Yahuwah, and camped in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people strove with Moshe and said, Give us water to drink. And Moshe said to them, Why do you strive with me? Why do you try Yahuwah? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people grumbled against Moshe and said, Why did you bring us out of Mitsrayim to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? Then Moshe cried out to Yahuwah, saying, What am I to do with this people? Yet a little, and they shall stone me. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Pass over before the people, and take with you some of the elders of Yisra'ėl, and take in your hand your rod, with which you smote the river, and go. See, I am standing before you there on the rock in Horeb, and you shall smite the rock, and water shall come out of it, and the people shall drink. And Moshe did so before the eyes of the elders of Yisra'ėl, and he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the strife of the children of Yisrael, and because they tried Yahuwah, saying, Is Yahuwah in our midst or not? And Amalek came and fought with Yisrael in Rephidim. And Moshe said to Yahushua, Choose for us men, and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I am stationing myself on the top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. And Yahushua did as Moshe said to him, to fight with Amalek, and Moshe, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to be, when Moshe held up his hand, that Yisra'ٰēl prevailed, and when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moshe's hands were heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady unto the going down of the sun. And Yahushua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, write this for a remembrance in the book, and recite it in the hearing of Yahushua, that I shall completely blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. And Moshe built an altar and called its name Yahuwah Nisi. For he said, because a hand is on the throne of Yah, Yahuwah is to fight against Amalek from generation to generation.
Shemoth Exodus, the 18th chapter. And Yethro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Yisra'ēl his people, that Yahuwah had brought Yisra'ēl out of Mitsrayim. And Yethro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Zipporah, the wife of Moshe, after he had sent her back, and her 2 sons, of whom the name of one was Gershon, for he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, and for he said, the Elohim of my father was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Yethro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moshe in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of Elohim. And he had said to Moshe, I, your father-in-law, Yethro, are coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons with her. And Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him, and they asked each other about their welfare, and they went into the tent. And Moshe told his father-in-law all that Yahuwah had done to Pharaoh and to the Mizrahites for Yisrael's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how Yahuwah had delivered them. And Yethro rejoiced for all the good which Yahuwah had done for Yisra'ēl, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Mizrahites. And Yethro said, Blessed be Yahuwah, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Mizrahites, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Mizrahites. Now I know that Yahuwah is greater than all the mighty ones. Indeed, in the matter in which he acted proudly above them. Then Yethro, the father-in-law of Moshe, brought burnt offering and other slaughterings unto Elohim. Aaron came with all the elders of to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moshe before Elohim. And it came to be the next day that Moshe sat to rule the people, and people for Moshe from morning unto evening. And when father-in-law saw all that they did for the people, he said, what is this that you are doing to the people? You sit by yourself, and all the people stand before you from morning until evening. And Moshe said to his father-in-law, because the people come to me to seek Elohim, when they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another, and make known the laws of Elohim and his Torah. And the father-in-law of Moshe said to him, what you are doing is not good. Both you and these people with you shall certainly wear them yourselves out. For the matter is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it by yourself. Now listen to my voice. Let me counsel you, and Elohim be with you. Stand before Elohim for the people, and you shall bring the matters to Elohim. And you shall enlighten them concerning the laws and the Torah, and show them the way in which they should walk, and the work which they should do. But you yourself seek out from all the people able men who fear Elohim, men of truth, hating unfair gain, and placed these over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they shall rightly rule the people at all times. And it shall be that they bring every great matter to you, but they themselves rightly rule every small matter. So make it lighter for yourself, for they shall bear with you. If you do this word, and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand. And all this people also go to their place in peace. And Moshe listened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he said. And Moshe chose able men out of all Yisra'ėl, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they rightly ruled the people at all times. The hard matters they brought to Moshe, but they rightly ruled every small matter themselves. And Moshe sent off his father-in-law, and he went away to his own land. Shemoth Exodus, the 19th chapter. In the 3rd month after the children of Yisrael had come out of the land of Mitsrayim, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. For they set out from Rephidim, and had come to the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. So Yisrael camped there before the mountain. And Moshe went up to Elohim, and Yahuwah called to him from the mountain, saying, This is what you are to say to the house of Yaakov, and declare to the children of Yisrael. You have seen what I did to the Mizrites, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice, and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Yisrael. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and set before them all these words which Yahuwah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that Yahuwah has spoken we shall do. So Moshe brought back the words of the people to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, See, I am coming to you in the thick clouds, so that the people hear when I speak with you, and believe you forever. And Moshe reported the words of the people to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Go to the people, and set them apart today and tomorrow. And they shall wash their garments, and shall be prepared by the 3rd day. For on the 3rd day Yahuwah shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. And you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, Take heed to yourself that you do not go up to the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the border shall certainly be put to death. Not a hand is to touch it, but he shall certainly be stoned or shot with an arrow. Whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds long, let them come near the mountain. And Moshe came down from the mountain to the people, and set the people apart, and they washed their garments. And he said to the people, Be prepared by the 3rd day. Do not come near wife. And it came to be on the 3rd day in the morning, that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sound of the ram's horn was very loud. And all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was in smoke, all of it, because Yahuwah descended upon it in fire. And his smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And when the blast of the ram's horn sounded long and became louder and louder, Moshe spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. And Yahuwah came down upon Mount Sinai, on the top of the mountain. And Yahuwah called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Go down and warn the people, lest they break through unto Yahuwah to see, and many of them fall. And let the priests who come near Yahuwah set themselves apart too, lest Yahuwah break out against them. And Moshe said to Yahuwah, The people are not able to come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, Make a border around the mountain and set it apart. And Yahuwah said to him, Come, go down, and then come up, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priest and the people break through to come up to Yahuwah, lest he break out against them. And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them. Shemoth, Exodus the 20th chapter. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitsrayim, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah, your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing kindness to thousands to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahuwah your Elohim to naught, but Yahuwah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahuwah your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's house, you do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. And all the people saw the thunders, the lightnings, flashes, the sound of the ram's horn, and the mountain smoking, and the people saw it, and they trembled and stood at a distance, and said to Moshe, You speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. And Moshe said to the people, Do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, and in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Say this to the children of Yisra'ėl, You yourselves have seen that I have spoken to you from the heavens. You do not make beside me mighty ones of silver, and you do not make mighty ones of gold for yourselves. Make an altar of earth for me, and you shall slaughter on it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your cattle. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I shall come to you and bless you. And if you make me an altar of stone, do not build it of cut stone, for if you use your chisel on it, you have profaned it. Nor do you go up by steps to my altar, lest your nakedness be exposed on it. Shemoth, Exodus the 21st chapter. These are the right rulings which you are to set before them. When you buy a Hebrew servant, he serves 6 years, and in the 7th he goes out free for naught. If he comes in by himself, he goes out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children are her master's, and he goes out by himself. And if the servant truly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, let me not go out free, then his master shall bring him before Elohim, and shall bring him to the door, or to the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And when a man sells his daughter to be a female servant, she does not go out as the male servants do. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her master, who has engaged her to himself, then he shall let her be ransomed. He shall have no authority to sell her to a foreign people, because of him deceiving her. And if he has engaged her to his son, he is to do to her as is the right of daughters. If he takes another wife, her food, her covering, and her marriage rights are not to be diminished. And if he does not do these 3 for her, then she shall go out for naught without silver. He who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait, but Elohim delivered him into his hand. Then I shall appoint for you a place where he is to flee. But when a man acts presumptuously against his neighbor to kill him by treachery, you are to take him even from my altar to die. And he who smites his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. And he who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, shall certainly be put to death. And he who curses his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. And when men strive together, and one smites the other with a stone or with his fist, and he does not die, but is confined to his bed, if he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, then he who smote him shall be innocent. He only pays for lost time and sees to it that he is completely healed. And when a man smites his male or female servant with a rod, so that he dies under his hand, he shall certainly be punished. But if he remains alive a day or two, he is not punished, for he is his property. And when men strive, and they shall smite a pregnant woman, and her children come out, yet there is no injury, he shall certainly be punished accordingly, as the woman's husband lays upon him, and he shall give through the judges. But if there is injury, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, lash for lash. And when a man smites the eye of his male or female servant and destroys it, he is to let him go free for the sake of his eye. And if he knocks out the tooth of his male or female servant, he is to let him go free for the sake of his tooth. And when an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall certainly be stoned, and its flesh is not eaten. And the owner of the ox is innocent. However, if the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and its owner has been warned, and he has not kept it confined so that it has killed a man or a woman, the ox is stoned, and its owner also is put to death. If a sin covering is laid upon him, then he shall give the ransom of his life, whatever is laid on him, whether it has gored a son or gored a daughter, according to this right ruling, it is done to him. If the ox gores a male or female servant, he is to give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox is stoned. And when a man opens a pit, or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls in it, the owner of the pit is to repay. He is to give silver to their owner, and the dead beast is his. And when the ox of a man smites the ox of his neighbor, and it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the silver from it, and also divide the dead ox. Or if it was known that the ox was previously in the habit of goring, and its owner has not kept it confined, he shall certainly repay ox for ox, while the dead beast is his. Shemoth Exodus, 22nd chapter. When a man steals an ox or a sheep, and shall slaughter it or sell it, he repays 5 cattle for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If the thief is found breaking in, and he is smitten so that he dies, there is no guilt for his bloodshed. If the sun has risen on him, there is guilt for his bloodshed. He shall certainly repay. If he has not the means, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft is indeed found alive in his hand, whether it is an ox or donkey or sheep, he repays double. When a man lets a field or vineyard be grazed bare and lets loose his livestock, and it feeds on another man's field, he repays from the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard. When fire breaks out and spreads to thorn bushes so that stacked grain or standing grain or the field is consumed, he who kindled the fire shall certainly repay. When a man gives a silver or goods to his neighbor to guard, and it is stolen out of the man's house, if the thief is found, he pays double. If the thief is not found, then the master of the house shall be brought before Elohim to see whether he has put his hand into his neighbor's goods. For every matter of transgression, for ox, for donkey, for sheep, for garment, or for whatever is lost which another claims to be his, let the matter of them both come before Elohim. And whomever Elohim declares wrong repays double to his neighbor. When a man gives to his neighbor a donkey or ox or sheep, or any beast to watch over, and it dies, or is injured, or is driven away, while no one is looking, let an oath of Yahuwah be between them both, that he has not put his hand into his neighbor's goods. And the owner of it shall accept that, and he does not repay. But if it is indeed stolen from him, he repays to its owner. If it is torn to pieces, then let him bring it for evidence. He does not repay what was torn. And when a man borrows from his neighbor, and it is injured or dies while the owner of it is not present, he shall certainly repay. But if its owner was with it, he does not repay. If it was hired, he is entitled to the hire. And when a man entices a maiden who is not engaged and lies with her, he shall certainly pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he pays according to the bride price of maidens. Do not allow a practicer of witchcraft to live. Anyone lying with a beast shall certainly be put to death. He who slaughters to a mighty one, except to Yahuwah only, is put under the ban. Do not tread down a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Mitsrayim. Do not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you do afflict them at all, if they cry out to me at all, I shall certainly hear their cry. And my wrath shall burn, and I shall slay you with the sword. Your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. If you do lend silver to any of my people, the poor among you, you are not to be like one that lends on interest to him. Do not lay interest on him. If you take your neighbor's garment as a pledge at all, you are to return it to him before the sun goes down, for that is his only covering. It is his garment for his skin. What does he sleep in? And it shall be that when he cries to me, I shall hear, for I show favor. Do not revile Elohim, nor curse a ruler of your people. Do not delay giving your harvest and your vintage. Give me the firstborn of your sons. Likewise you are to do with your oxen, with your sheep. It is to be with its mother 7 days. On the 8th day you give it to me, and you are set apart men to me. And you do not eat any meat which is torn to pieces in the field. You throw it to the dogs. Shema, Exodus, the 23rd chapter. Do not bring a false report. Do not put your hand with the wrong to be a malicious witness. Do not allow a crowd to do evil, nor bear witness in a strife so as to turn aside after minutes, to turn aside what is right. And do not favor a poor man in his strife. When you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall certainly return it to him. When you see the donkey of him who hates you lying under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving it to him. You shall certainly help him. Do not turn aside the right ruling of your poor in his strife. Keep yourself far from a false matter, and do not kill the innocent and the righteous. For I do not declare the wrong right. And do not take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the seeing one and twists the words of the righteous. And do not oppress a sojourner, as you yourselves know the heart of a sojourner, because you were sojourners in the land of Mitsrayim. And for 6 years you are to sow your land, and shall gather its increase. But the 7th year you are to let it rest, and shall leave it, and the poor of your people shall eat. And what they leave, the beasts of the field eat. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive yard. 6 days you are to do your work, and on the 7th day you rest, in order that your ox and your donkey might rest, and the son of your female servant and the sojourner be refreshed. And in all that I have said to you, take heed, and make no mention of the name of other mighty ones. Let it not be heard from your mouth. 3 times in the year you are to observe a festival to me. Guard the festival of unleavened bread. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Mitsrayim. And do not appear before me empty-handed. And the festival of the harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the festival of the ingathering at the outgoing of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times in the year all your males are to appear before the Master Yahuwah.
Do not offer the blood of my slaughtering with leavened bread, and the fat of my offering shall not remain until morning. Bring the first of the first fruits of your land into the house of Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. See, I am sending a messenger before you to guard you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Be on guard before him and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he is not going to pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. But if you diligently obey his voice and shall do all that I speak, then I shall be an enemy to your enemies and a distresser to those who distress you. For my messengers shall go before you and shall bring you into the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I shall cut them off. Do not bow down to their mighty ones, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but without fail overthrow them, and without fail break down their pillars. And you shall serve Yahuwah your Elohim, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I shall remove sickness from your midst. None shall miscarry or be barren in your land. I shall fill the number of your days. I shall send my fear before you, and cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I shall send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. I shall not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become a waste and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Little by little I shall drive them out from before you, until you have increased and you inherit the land. And I shall set your border from the sea of reeds to the sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the river, for I shall give the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them, nor with their mighty ones. Let them not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me when you serve their mighty ones, when it becomes a snare to you. Shemoth Exodus, the 24th chapter. And to Moshe he said, Come up to Yahuwah, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Yisra'ėl, and you shall bow yourselves from a distance. But Moshe shall draw near to Yahuwah by himself, and let them not draw near, nor let the people go up with him. And Moshe came and related to the people all the words of Yahuwah, and all the right rulings. And all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words which Yahuwah has spoken we shall do. And Moshe wrote down all the words of Yahuwah, and rose up early in the morning, and built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and 12 standing columns for the 12 tribes of Yisrael. And he sent young men of the children of Yisrael, and they offered burnt offerings and slaughtered peace slaughterings of bulls to Yahuwah. And Moshe took half the blood and put it in basins, and half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the hearing of the people, and they said, All that Yahuwah has spoken we shall do and obey. And Moshe took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, See, the blood of the covenant which Yahuwah has made with you concerning all these words. And Moshe went up, also Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Yisrael. And they saw the Elohim of Yisrael, and under his feet like a paved work of sapphire stone, and like the heavens for brightness. Yet he did not stretch out his hand against the chiefs of the children of Israel. And they saw Elohim, and they ate and drank. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Come up to me on the mountain and be there, while I give you tablets of stone, and the Torah and the command which I have written to teach them. And Moshe arose with his assistant Yahushua, and Moshe went up to the mountain of Elohim. And he said to the elders, Wait here for us until we come back to you. And see, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has matters, let him go to them. And Moshe went up into the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain. And the esteem of Yahuwah dwelt on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the 7th day he called to Moshe out of the midst of the cloud. And the appearance of the esteem of Yahuwah was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain before the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moshe went into the midst of the cloud, and went up into the mountain. And it came to be that Moshe was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Shemoth Exodus 25th chapter. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yisra'ėl, that they take up a contribution for me. From everyone whose heart moves him, you shall take up my contribution. And this is the contribution which you take up from them: gold and silver and bronze, and blue and purple, and scarlet material, and fine linen, and goat's hair, and rams' skins, dyed red, and fine leather, and acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, shohan stones, and stones to be set in the shoulder garment and in the breastplate. And they shall make me a set-apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst, according to all that I show you, the pattern of the dwelling place and the pattern of all its furnishings. Make it exactly so. And they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. And you shall overlay it with clean gold. Inside and outside you shall overlay it. And you shall make on it a molding of gold all around. And you shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in its 4 corners, 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark, to lift up the ark by them. The poles are in the rings of the ark, they are not taken from it. And into the ark you shall put the witness which I give you. And you shall make a lid of atonement of clean gold, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold, make them of beaten work at the 2 ends of the lid of atonement, and make 1 cherub at one end and the other cherub at the other end. Make the cherubim from the lid of atonement at its 2 ends, and the cherubim shall be spreading out their wings above, covering the lid of atonement with their wings, with their faces toward each other. The faces of the cherubim turn toward the lid of atonement. And you shall put the lid of atonement on top of the ark, and put into the ark the witness which I give you. And I shall meet with you there. And from above the lid of atonement, from between the 2 cherubim which are on the ark of the witness, I shall speak to you all that which I command you concerning the children of Yisra'ėl. And you shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. And you shall overlay it with clean gold, and it shall make a molding of gold all around, and shall make for it a rim of a handbreadth all around, and shall make a gold molding for the rim all around. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 corners that are at its 4 legs. The rings are close to the rim as holders for the poles to lift the table. And you shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be lifted with them. And you shall make its dishes, and its ladles, and its jars, and its bowls for pouring. Make them of clean gold. And you shall put the showbread on the table before me continually. And you shall make a lampstand of clean gold. The lampstand is made of beaten work. Its base and its shaft, its cups, its ornamental knobs, and blossoms are from it. And 6 branches shall come out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. 3 cups made like almond flowers on one branch, with ornamental knob and blossom, and 3 cups made like almond flowers on the other branch, with ornamental knob and blossom. So for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand, and on the lampstand itself are 4 cups made like almond flowers, with ornamental knob and blossom, and a knob under the first 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. Their knobs and their branches are of the same. All of it one beaten work of clean gold. And you shall make 7 lamps for it, and they shall mount its lamps so that they give light in front of it, and its snuffers and their trays are of clean gold. It is made of a talent of clean gold with all these utensils. So see and do according to the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain. Shemoth Exodus, the 26th chapter. And make the dwelling place with 10 curtains of fine woven linen and blue and purple, and scarlet material. Make them with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. The length of each curtain is 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains having one measure. 5 curtains are joined to each other, and 5 curtains are joined to each other. And you shall make loops of blue on the edge of the end curtain on one set, and do the same on the edge of the end curtain of the second set. Make 50 loops in the one curtain, and make 50 loops on the edge of the end curtain of the second set, the loops being opposite to each other. And you shall make 50 hooks of gold, and shall join the curtains together with the hooks, and the dwelling place shall be one. And you shall make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the dwelling place. Make 11 curtains. The length of each curtain is 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, one measure to the 11 curtains. And you shall join the 5 curtains by themselves, and the 6 curtains by themselves. And you shall double over the 6 curtains at the front of the tent. And you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain of the second set. And you shall make 50 bronze hooks, and put the hooks into the loops, and join the tent together, and it shall be one. And the overlapping part of the rest of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the dwelling place, and a cubit on one side and a cubit on the other side. Of what remains of the length of the curtains of the tent is to hang over the sides of the dwelling place, on this side and on that side, to cover it. And you shall make a covering of ram skins dyed red for the tent, and a covering of fine leather above that. And for the dwelling place you shall make the boards of acacia wood standing up. 10 cubits is the length of a board, and a cubit and a half the width of each board. 2 tenons in each board for binding one to another. Do the same for all the boards of the dwelling place. And you shall make the boards for the dwelling place, 20 boards for the south side, and make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each of the boards for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the dwelling place on the north side, 20 boards. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under each of the boards. And for the extreme parts of the dwelling place westward, make 6 boards. And make 2 boards for the 2 back corners of the dwelling place. And they are double beneath, and similarly, they are complete on to the top to the one ring. So it is for both of them, they are for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under the one board, and 2 sockets under the other board. And you shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the board on the other side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the dwelling place, for the extreme parts westward, with the middle bar in the midst of the board going through from one end to the end. And overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold as holders for the bars, and overlay the bars with gold. And you shall raise up the dwelling place according to its pattern which you were shown on the mountain. And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen, the work of a skilled workman made with cherubim. And you shall put it on the 4 columns of acacia wood overlaid with gold, their hooks of gold upon 4 sockets of silver. And you shall hang the veil from the hooks, and shall bring the ark of the witness there behind the veil. And the veil shall make a separation for you between the set apart and the most set apart place. And you shall put the lid of atonement upon the ark of the witness in the most set apart place. And you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the dwelling place toward the south, and put the table on the north side. And you shall make a covering for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen made by a weaver. And you shall make for the covering 5 columns of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, their hooks of gold. And you shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. Shemoth Exodus chapter 27. And you shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The altar is square, and its height 3 cubits. And you shall make its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns are of the same. And you shall overlay it with bronze. And you shall make its pots to receive its ashes, and its shovels, and its basins, and its forks, and its fire holders. Make all its utensils of bronze. And you shall make a grating for it, a bronze network, and shall make on the network 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners, and shall put it under the rim of the altar beneath, so that the network is halfway up the altar. And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and shall overlay them with bronze. And the poles shall be put in the rings, and the poles shall be put on the 2 sides of the altar for lifting it. Make it hollow with boards, as it was shown to you on the mountain, so they are to make it. And you shall make the courtyard of the dwelling place for the south side screens for the courtyard made of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long for one side, and its 20 columns in their 20 sockets of bronze, the hooks of the columns in their bands of silver. And so for the north side in length, screens are 100 cubits long, with its 20 columns and their 20 sockets of bronze, and the hooks of the columns and their bands of silver. And the width of the courtyard on the west side screens of 50 cubits, with their 10 columns and their 10 sockets. And the width of the courtyard on the east side 50 cubits, and the screens on one side of the gate 15 cubits, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And on the other side screens of 15 cubits, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And for the gate of the courtyard a covering 20 cubits long of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen made by a weaver, 4 columns and 4 sockets. All the columns around the courtyard have bands of silver, their hooks silver, and their sockets bronze. The length of the courtyard is 100 cubits, and the width 50 by 50, and the height 5 cubits, woven of fine linen thread, and its sockets of bronze. All the utensils of the dwelling place for all its service, all its pegs, and all the pegs of the courtyard are bronze. And you are to command the children of Israel to bring you clear oil of pressed olives for the light, to cause the lamp to burn continually. In the tent of meeting outside the veil, which is before the witness, Aaron and his sons are to tend it from evening until morning before Yahuwah, a law forever to their generations, from the children of Yisra'ėl. Shemoth Exodus 28th chapter. And you bring near Aaron your brother and his sons with him from among the children of Israel, for serving as priests to me, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron. And you shall make set-apart garments for Aaron your brother, for esteem and for comeliness. And you speak to all the wise of heart, whom I have filled with a spirit of wisdom, and they shall make the garments of Aaron, to set him apart for him to serve as priest to me. And these are the garments which they make: a breastplate, a shoulder garment, a robe, an embroidered long shirt, a turban, and a girdle. And they shall make set-apart garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, for him to serve as priest to me. And they shall take the gold, and the blue, and the purple, and the scarlet material, and the fine linen, and shall make the shoulder garment of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet material, and fine woven linen, the work of a skilled workman. It is to have 2 shoulder pieces joined at its 2 edges, and so it is joined together. And the embroidered band of the shoulder garment which is on it is of the same workmanship, made of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet material, and fine woven linen. And you shall take 2 shoham stones, and engrave on them the names of the sons of Yisra'ėl, 6 of their names on one stone, and the remaining 6 names on the other stone, according to their birth, with the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet. Engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Yisra'ėl. Set them in settings of gold. And you shall put the 2 stones on the shoulder pieces of the shoulder garment, as stones of remembrance for the sons of Yisra'ėl. And Aaron shall bear their names before Yahuwah on his 2 shoulders for a remembrance. And you shall make settings of gold, and 2 chains of clean gold like braided cords, and fasten the braided chains to the settings. And you shall make a breastplate of right ruling, a work of a skilled workman, like the work of the shoulder garment. Make it of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet material, and fine woven linen. It is square, doubled a span its length, and a span its width. And you shall put settings of stones in it, 4 rows of stones. The first row is a ruby, a topaz, and an emerald. And the second row is a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row is a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row is a beryl, and a shohan, and a jasper. They are set in gold settings. And the stones are according to the names of the sons of Yisra'ელ, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of his signet, each one with its own name for the 12 tribes. And you shall make braided chains of corded work for the breastplate at the end of clean gold. And you shall make 2 rings of gold for the breastplate, and shall put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And you shall put the 2 cords of gold in the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 cords you fasten to the 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the shoulder garment in the front. And you shall make 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate on the edge of it, which is on the inner side of the shoulder garment. And you shall make 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 shoulder pieces underneath the shoulder garment on the front of it, close to the seam above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment. And they bind the breastplate by means of its rings to the rings of the shoulder garment, using a blue cord, so that it is above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, so that the breastplate does not come loose from the shoulder garment. And Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Yisra'eel on the breastplate of right ruling over his heart, when he goes into the set-apart place for a remembrance before Yahuwah continually. And into the breastplate of right ruling you shall put the Urim and Thummim, and they shall be on the heart of Aaron when he goes in before Yahuwah. And Aaron shall bear the right ruling of the children of Israel on his heart before Yahuwah continually. And you shall make the robe of the shoulder garment all of blue, and the opening for his head shall be in the middle of it, a woven binding all around its opening, like the opening in a scale armor, so that it does not tear. And on its hem you shall make pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet material all around its hem, and bells of gold between them all around. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate on the hem of the robe all around. And it shall be upon Aaron to attend in, and its sound shall be heard when he goes into the set-apart place before Yahuwah, and when he comes out, so that he does not die. And you shall make a plate of clean gold, and engrave on it, like the engraving of a signet, set apartness to Yahuwah. And you shall put it on a blue cord, and it shall be on the turban. It is to be on the front of the turban, and it shall be on the forehead of Aaron. And Aaron shall bear the guilt of the set-apart gifts with the children of Israel, set apart in all their set-apart gifts. And it shall always be on his forehead for acceptance for them before Yahuwah. And you shall weave the long shirt of fine linen, and shall make the turban of fine linen. And you shall make the girdle of woven work, and make long shirts for Aaron's sons. And you shall make girdles for them, and you shall make turbans for them, for esteem and comeliness. And you shall put them on Aaron your brother, and on his sons with him, and shall anoint them, and shall ordain them, and shall set them apart, and they shall serve as priests to me. And make linen trousers for them, to cover their nakedness, reaching from the waist to the thighs. And they shall be on Aaron and on his sons when they come into the tent of meeting, or when they come near the altar to attend in the set-apart place, so that they do not bear crookedness and die, a law forever to him and to his seed after him.
Shemoth Exodus 29. And this is the task you shall do to them, to set them apart to serve me as priests. Take 1 young bull and 2 rams, perfect ones, and unleavened bread, and unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil. Make these of wheat flour, and you shall put them in 1 basket, and bring them in the basket along with the bull and the 2 rams. Then you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the door of the tent of meeting, and wash them with water. And you shall take the garments, and shall put on Aaron the long shirt, and the robe of the shoulder garment, and the shoulder garment, and the breastplate, and shall gird him with the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, and shall put the turban on his head, and shall put
the set-apart sign of dedication on the turban, and shall take the anointing oil and pour it on his head and anoint him. Then you shall bring his sons and put long shirts on them, and shall gird them with girdles, Aaron and his sons, and put the turbans on them, and the priesthood shall be theirs for an everlasting law. So you shall ordain Aaron and his sons, and you shall bring near the bull before the tent of meeting, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the bull, and you shall slaughter the bull before Yahuwah by the door of the tent of meeting. And take some of the blood of the bull and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger, and pour all the blood beside the base of the altar. And you shall take all the fat that covers the entrails and the appendage on the liver and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, and burn them on the altar. But the flesh of the bull and its skin and its dung you shall burn with fire outside the camp. It is a sin offering. And take 1 ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram. And you shall slaughter the ram, and you shall take the blood and sprinkle it all around on the altar, and cut the ram in pieces, and wash its entrails and its legs, and place them upon its pieces and on its head. And you shall burn the entire ram on the altar. It is a burnt offering to Yahuwah. It is a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And you shall take the 2nd ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram. And you shall slaughter the ram, and take some of its blood, and put it on the tip of the right ear of Aaron, and on the tip of the right ear of his sons, on the thumb of their right hand, and on the big toe of their right foot, and sprinkle the blood all around on the altar. And you shall take some of the blood that is on the altar, and some of the anointing oil, and sprinkle it on Aaron and on his garments, on his sons, and on the garments of his sons with him. And he and his garments shall be set apart, and his sons and the garments of his sons with him. And you shall take the fat of the ram, and the fat tail, and the fat that covers the entrails, and the appendage on the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat on them, and the right thigh. It is for a ram of ordination. And 1 loaf of bread, and 1 cake made with oil, and 1 thin cake from the basket of the unleavened bread that is before Yahuwah. And you shall put all these in the hands of Aaron, and in the hands of his sons, and you shall wave them a wave offering before Yahuwah. And you shall take them from your hands, and burn them on the altar as a burnt offering, as a sweet fragrance before Yahuwah. It is an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And you shall take the breast of the ram of Aaron's ordination, and wave it a wave offering before Yahuwah, and it shall be your portion. And from the ram of ordination you shall set apart the breast of the wave offering which is waved, and the thigh of the contribution which is raised of that which is for Aaron, and of that which is for his sons. And it shall be from the children of Yisra'ელ for Aaron and his sons by a law forever, for it is a contribution. And it is a contribution from the children of Yisra'ėl, from their peace offerings, their contribution to Yahuwah. And the set-apart garments of Aaron are for his sons after him, to be anointed in them, and to be ordained in them. The priest from his sons in his place puts them on for 7 days, when he enters the tent of meeting to attend in the set-apart place, and take the ram of ordination, and cook its flesh in a set-apart place. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram, and the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tent of meeting. And they shall eat those offerings with which the atonement was made, to ordain them, to set them apart. But let a stranger not eat them, because they are set apart. And if any of the flesh of the ordination offerings or of the bread be left over until the morning, then you shall burn up what is left over. It is not eaten, because it is set apart. And so you shall do to Aaron and his sons, according to all I have commanded you. 7 days you shall ordain them, and prepare a bull each day, as a sin offering for atonement. And you shall cleanse the altar when you make atonement for it, and you shall anoint it to set it apart. For 7 days you shall make atonement for the altar and set it apart. And the altar shall be most set apart. Whatever touches the altar is to be set apart. And this is what you prepare on the altar: 2 lambs, a year old, daily, continually. Prepare the 1 lamb in the morning, and the other lamb you prepare between the evenings. And 1/10 of an ephod of flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of pressed oil, and 1/4 of a hin of wine, as a drink offering with the 1 lamb. And prepare the other lamb between the evenings, and with it prepare the grain offering and the drink offering, as in the morning, for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. A continual burnt offering for your generations at the door of the tent of meeting before Yahuwah, where I shall meet with you to speak with you. And there I shall meet with the children of Israel, and it shall be set apart by my esteem. And I shall set apart the tent of meeting and the altar, and Aaron and his sons I set apart to serve as priests to me. And I shall dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and shall be their Elohim. And they shall know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim, who brought them up out of the land of Mitsrayim to dwell in their midst. I am Yahuwah their Elohim.
Shemoth Exodus chapter 30. And you shall make an altar to burn incense on. Make it of acacia wood, a cubit long and a cubit wide. It is a square, and 2 cubits high, its horns of the same. And you shall overlap its top and its sides all around, and its horns with clean gold. And you shall make for it a molding of gold all around. And make 2 gold rings for it, under the molding on both its sides. Make them on its 2 sides, and they shall be holders for the poles to lift it with. And you shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And you shall put it before the veil, that is, before the ark of the witness, before the lid of atonement, that is, over the witness where I am to meet with you. And Aaron shall burn on it sweet incense, morning by morning. As he tends the lamps, he shall burn incense on it. And when Aaron lights the lamps between the evenings, he shall burn incense on it, a continual incense before Yahuwah throughout your generations. Do not offer strange incense on it, or a burnt offering, or a grain offering, and do not pour a drink offering on it. And Aaron shall make atonement upon his horns once a year, with the blood of the sin offering of atonement. Once a year he makes atonement upon it throughout your generations. It is most set apart to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, when you take the census of the children of Israel to register them, then each one shall give an atonement for his life to Yahuwah, when you register them, so that there is no plague among them when you register them. Everyone among those who are registered is to give this, half a shekel according to the shekel of the set-apart place, 20 gerahs being a shekel. The half shekel is a contribution to Yahuwah. Everyone passing over to be registered from 20 years old and above gives a contribution to Yahuwah. The rich does not give more, and the poor does not give less than half a shekel when you give a contribution to Yahuwah. 46943.
Shemoth Exodus chapter 31. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, see, I have called by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah. And I have filled him with the spirit of Elohim in wisdom, and in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all work, to make designs for work in gold, and in silver, and in bronze, and in cutting stones for setting, and in carving wood, and to work in all work. And I have appointed with him Oholiab, son of Ahishmach, of this tribe of Dan. And I have put wisdom in the hearts of every one who is wise-hearted, and they shall make all that I have commanded you, the tent of meeting, and the ark of the witness, and the lid of atonement that is on it, and all the utensils of the tent. and the table and its utensils, and the clean gold lampstand with all its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the basin and its stand, and the woven garments, and the set-apart garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons for serving as priests, and the anointing oil and sweet incense for the set-apart place, according to all that I have commanded you, they are to do. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, And you speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, My Sabbath you are to guard by all means, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, to know that I, Yahuwah, am setting you apart. And you shall guard the Sabbath, for it is set apart to you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death. For anyone who does work on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days' work is done, and on the 7th is a Sabbath of rest, set apart to Yahuwah. Everyone doing work on the Sabbath day shall certainly be put to death. And the children of Israel shall guard the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout your generations as an everlasting covenant. Between me and the children of Israel it is a sign forever. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. And when he had ended speaking with him on Mount Sinai, he gave Moshe 2 tablets of the witness, tablets of stone written with the finger of Elohim. Shemoth Exodus chapter 32. And when the people saw that Moshe was so long in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered together to Aaron and said to him, Arise, make us mighty ones who go before us. For this Moshe, the man who brought us up out of the land of Mitsrayim, we do not know what has become of him. And Aaron said to them, Take off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. And all the people took off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them to Aaron. And he took this from their hand, and he formed it with an engraving tool, and made a molten calf. And they said, This is your mighty one, O Yisra'ელ, that brought you out of the land of Mitsrayim. And Aaron saw and built an altar before it. And Aaron called out and said, Tomorrow is a festival to Yahuwah. And they rose early on the next day, and offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Go, get down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Mitsrayim have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded calf, and have bowed themselves to it, and slaughtered to it, and said, This is your mighty one, O Yisra'ელ, who brought you out of the land of Mitsrayim. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, I have seen this people, and see, it is a stiff-necked people. And now let me alone, that my wrath might burn against them, and I consume them, and I make of you a great nation. But Moshe pleaded with Yahuwah his Elohim, and said, Yahuwah, why does your wrath burn against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Mitsrayim with great power and with a strong hand? Why should the Mizrahites speak and say, For evil he brought them out to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from the heat of your wrath, and relent from this evil to your people. Remember Abraham, Ishak, and Yisra'ელ, your servants, to whom you swore by yourself, and said to them, I increase your seed like the stars of the heavens, and all this land that I have spoken of I give to your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. And Yahuwah relented from the evil which he said he would do to his people. And Moshe turned and went down from the mountain. And in his hand were the 2 tablets of the witness, tablets written on both their sides, written on the one and on the other. And the tablets were the work of Elohim, and the writing was the writing of Elohim, engraved on the tablets. And Yahushua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, and he said to Moshe, A noise of battle in the camp. But he said, It is not the sound of those who shout of might, nor is it the sound of those who cry out in weakness, but the sound of singing that I hear. And it came to be, as soon as he came near the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing. And Moshe's displeasure burned, And he threw the tablets out of his hands, and broke them at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf which they had made, and burned it in the fire, and ground it into powder, and scattered it on the face of the water, and made the children of Yisra'ėl drink it. And Moshe said to Aaron, What did this people do to you, that you have brought so great a sin upon us? And Aaron said, Do not let the displeasure of my master burn. You know the people that it is in evil. And they said to me, Make us mighty ones who go before us. For this Moshe, the man who brought us out of the land of Mitsrayim, we do not know what has become of him. And I said to them, Whoever has gold, let them take it off. And they gave it to me, and I threw it into the fire, and this calf came out. And Moshe saw that the people were let loose, for Aaron had let them loose to their shame among their enemies. And Moshe stood in the entrance of the camp and said, Who is for Yahuwah? Come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves to him. And he said to them, Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, Each one put his sword on his side, pass over to and fro from gate to gate in the camp. And each one slay his brother, and each one his friend, and each one his relative. And the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moshe. And about 3,000 men of the people fell that day. And Moshe said, You are ordained for Yahuwah today, since each one has been against his son and his brother, so as to bring upon you a blessing today. And it came to be on the next day that Moshe said to the people, You have sinned a great sin, and now I am going up to Yahuwah, if I might atone for your sin. And Moshe returned to Yahuwah and said, Oh, these people have sinned a great sin, and have made for themselves a mighty one of gold. And now, if you would forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of your book which you have written. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Whoever has sinned against me, I blot him out of my book. And now go, lead the people to the place of which I have spoken to you. See, my messenger goes before you, and in the day of my visitation I shall visit their sin upon them. And Yahuwah plagued the people, because they made the calf which Aaron made.
Shemoth Exodus chapter 33. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Come, go up from here, you and the people whom you have brought out of the land of Mitsrayim, to the land of which I swore to Abraham, to Ishak, and to Jacob, saying, To your seed I give it. And I shall send my messenger before you, and I shall drive out the Canaanite, and the Amorite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. For I do not go up in your midst, because you are a stiff-necked people, lest I consume you on the way. And when the people heard this evil word, they mourned, and no one put on his ornaments. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Say to the children of Yisra'ėl, You are a stiff-necked people. Should I go up in your midst for one moment, I shall consume you. And now take off your ornaments, and I shall know what to do to you. So the children of Israel took off their ornaments at Mount Horeb. And Moshe took his tent and pitched it outside the camp, far from the camp, and called it the tent of meeting. And it came to be that everyone who sought Yahuwah went out to the tent of meeting, which was outside the camp. And it came to be, whenever Moshe went out to the tent, that all the people rose, and each man stood at his tent door, and watched Moshe until he entered the tent. And it came to be, when Moshe entered the tent, that the column of cloud descended and stood at the door of the tent, and he spoke with Moshe. And all the people saw the column of cloud standing at the tent door, and all the people rose and bowed themselves, each one at the door of his tent. Thus Yahuwah spoke to Moshe face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. And he would return to the camp. But his servant Yahushua, son of Nun, a young man, did not leave the tent. And Moshe said to Yahuwah, See, you are saying to me, Bring up this people, but you have not made known to me
whom you would send with me, though you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my eyes. And now please, if I have found favor in your eyes, please show me your way and let me know you, so that I find favor in your eyes, and consider that this nation is your people. And he said, my presence does go, and I shall give you rest. And he said to him, if your presence is not going, do not lead us up from here. For how then shall it be known that I have found favor in your eyes, I and your people, except you go with us? Then we shall be distinguished, I and your people, from all the people who are upon the face of the earth. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, even this word you have spoken I shall do, for you have found favor in my eyes, and I know you by name. Then he said, please show me your esteem. And he said, I shall cause all my goodness to pass before you, and I shall proclaim the name of Yahuwah before you, and I shall favor him whom I favor, and shall have compassion on him whom I have compassion. But he said, you are unable to see my face, for no man does see me and live. And Yahuwah said, see, there is a place with me, and you shall stand on the rock, and it shall be while my esteem passes by, that I shall put you in the cleft of the rock, and cover you with my hand while I pass by. Then I shall take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. Shemoth Exodus chapter 34. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, cut 2 tablets of stone like the first ones, and I shall write on these tablets the words that were on the first tablets which you broke. And be read in the morning. Then you shall come up in the morning to Mount Sinai, and present yourself to me there on the top of the mountain. And let no man come up with you, and let no man be seen in all the mountain, and let not even the flock or the herd feed in front of that mountain. And he cut 2 tablets of stone like the first ones. Then Moshe rose early in the morning and went up Mount Sinai as Yahuwah had commanded him. And he took 2 tablets of stone in his hand. And Yahuwah came down in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name Yahuwah. And Yahuwah passed before him and proclaimed Yahuwah, Yahuwah, and El compassionate, and showing favor, patient, and great in kindness and truth, watching over kindness for thousands, forgiving crookedness and transgression and sin, but by no means leaving unpunished, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the 3rd and the 4th generation. And Moshe heard and bowed himself toward the earth and did obedience, and said, if now I have found favor in your eyes, O Yahuwah, I pray, let Yahuwah go on in our midst, even though we are a stiff-necked people, and forgive our crookedness and our sin, and take us as your inheritance. And he said, see, I am making a covenant before all your people. I am going to do wonders such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among whom you are shall see the work of Yahuwah, for what I am doing with you is awesome. Guard what I command you today. See, I am driving out from before you the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Hivite and the Jebusite. Guard yourself, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land where you are going, lest it be a snare in your midst. But break down their altars and smash their pillars and cut down their Asherim. For you do not bow yourself to another mighty one, for Yahuwah, whose name is jealous, is a Yisra'mêl, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land. And they whore after their mighty ones, and slaughter to their mighty ones, and one of them invites you, and you eat of their slaughterings. And you take of his daughters for your sons, and his daughters whore after their mighty ones, and make your sons whore after their mighty ones. Do not make a molded mighty one for yourselves. Guard the festival of unleavened bread. For 7 days you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you in the appointed time of the month of Abib, because in the month of Abib you came out from Mitsrayim. Everyone opening the womb is mine, and every male firstborn among your livestock, whether bull or sheep. But the firstborn of a donkey you ransom with a lamb. And if you do not ransom, then you shall break his neck. Every firstborn of your sons you shall ransom, and they shall not appear before me empty-handed. 6 days you work, but on the 7th day you rest. In plowing time and in harvest you rest. And perform the festival of weeks for yourself. Of the first fruits of wheat, harvest, and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times in the year all your men are to appear before the Master, Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yisra'ელ. For I dispossess nations before you, and shall enlarge your borders, and let no one covet your land when you go up to appear before Yahuwah your Elohim 3 times in the year. Do not offer the blood of my slaughtering with leaven, and do not let the slaughtering of the festival of the Passover remain until morning. Bring the first of the first fruits of your land to the house of Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, write these words, for according to the mouth of these words I have made a covenant with you and with Yisra'ėl. And he was there with Yahuwah 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat bread, and he did not drink water. And he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 words. And it came to be when Moshe came down from Mount Sinai, while the 2 tablets of the witness were in Moshe's hand, when he came down from the mountain, that Moshe did not know that the skin of his face shone, since he had spoken with him. And Aaron and all the children of Israel looked at Moshe, and saw the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moshe called out to them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned to him, and Moshe spoke to them. And afterward all the children of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that Yahuwah had spoken with him on Mount Sinai. And when Moshe ended speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But whenever Moshe went in before Yahuwah to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. And when he came out, he spoke to the children of Israel what he had been commanded. And the children of Israel would see the face of Moshe, that the skin of Moshe's face shone, and Moshe would put the veil on his face again until he went in to speak with him. Shemoth Exodus chapter 35. And Moshe assembled all the congregation of the children of Yisrael, and said to them, these are the words which Yahuwah has commanded you to do. Work is done for 6 days, but on the 7th day it shall be set apart to you, a Sabbath of rest to Yahuwah. Anyone doing work on it is put to death. Do not kindle a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day. And Moshe spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, this is the word which Yahuwah commanded, saying, take from among you a contribution to Yahuwah. Everyone whose heart so moves him, let him bring it as a contribution to Yahuwah, gold and silver and bronze, and blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine linen and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and fine leather, and acacia wood, and oil for the light, and spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, and shohan stones, and stones to be set in the shoulder garment and the breastplate. And let all the wise-hearted among you come and make all that Yahuwah has commanded. The dwelling place, its tent and its covering, its hooks and its boards, its bars, its columns and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the lid of atonement and the veil of the covering, the table and its poles, and all its utensils, and the showbread, and the lampstand for the light and its utensils, and its lamps, and the oil for the light, and the incense altar and its poles, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the covering for the door at the entrance of the dwelling place, the altar of burnt offering with its bronze grating, its poles and all its utensils, the basin and its stand, the screens of the courtyard, its columns and their sockets, and the covering for the gate of the courtyard, the pegs of the dwelling place, and the pegs of the courtyard in their cords, the woven garments to do service in the set-apart place, the set-apart garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to serve as priests. And all the congregation of the children of Israel withdrew from the presence of Moshe. And everyone whose heart lifted him up, and everyone whose spirit moved him came, and they brought the contribution to Yahuwah for the work of the tent of meeting, and for all its service, and for the set-apart garments. And they came, both men and women, all whose hearts moved them, and brought earrings and nose rings and rings and necklaces, all golden goods, even everyone who made a wave offering of gold to Yahuwah. And every man with whom was found blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine linen, and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and fine leather, brought them. Everyone who would make a contribution to Yahuwah of silver or bronze brought it. And everyone with whom was found acacia wood for any work of the service brought it. And all the wise-hearted women spun yarn with their hands, and brought what they had spun, the blue and the purple, the scarlet material, and the fine linen. And all the women whose hearts lifted them up in wisdom spun the goat's hair. And the rulers brought shohan stones, and the stones to be set in the shoulder garment and in the breastplate, and the spices and the oil for the light, and for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense. The children of Yisra'ėl brought a voluntary offering to Yahuwah, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring all kinds of work which Yahuwah by the hand of Moshe had commanded to be done. And Moshe said to the children of Yisra'ėl, See, Yahuwah has called by name Bethuel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah. And he has filled him with the spirit of Elohim, and wisdom, and understanding, and in knowledge, and in all work, to make designs, to work in gold, and in silver, and in bronze, and in cutting of stones for settings, and in carving wood, and to work in all workmanship of design. And he has put in his heart the ability to teach in him, and Aholiab, son of Ahishmaach, of the tribe of Dan. He has filled them with skill to do all work of the engraver, and the designer, and embroiderer, in blue, and in purple, and scarlet material, and in fine linen, and a weaver doing any work, and makers of designs. Shemoth, Exodus 36. And Bethuel, and Aholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whom Yahuwah has given wisdom and understanding, to know how to do all work for the service of the set-apart place, shall do according to all that Yahuwah has commanded. And Moshe called Bethuel and Aholiab, and every wise-hearted man in whose heart Yahuwah had given wisdom, everyone whose heart lifted him up, to come and to do the work. And they received from Moshe all the contribution which the children of Yisrael had brought for the work of the service of making the set-apart place. But they still brought to him voluntary offerings every morning. So all the craftsmen who were doing all the work of the set-apart place came, each from the work he was doing. And they spoke to Moshe, saying, The people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which Yahuwah commanded us to do. Then Moshe commanded, and they sent this word throughout the camp, saying, Let neither man nor woman do any more work for the contribution of the set-apart place. And the people were withheld from bringing, for what they had was enough for all the work to be done, more than enough. Then all the wise-hearted ones among them who worked on the dwelling place made 10 curtains woven of fine linen, and blue and purple and scarlet material. They made them with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, all the curtains having one measure. And he joined 5 curtains one to another, and the other 5 curtains he joined one to another. And he made loops of blue on the edge of the end curtain of one set, the same he did on the edge of the end curtain of the other set. 50 loops he made on one curtain, and 50 loops he made on the edge of the end curtain of the second set. The loops held one curtain to another, and he made 50 hooks of gold, and joined the curtains to each other with the hooks, and the dwelling place became one. And he made curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the dwelling place. He made 11 curtains. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains having one measure. And he joined 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves. And he made 50 loops on the edge of the end curtain in one set, and 50 loops he made on the edge of the curtain of the second set. And he made 50 bronze hooks to join the tent to be one. And he made a covering for the tent of ram's skins dyed red, and a covering of fine leather above that. And for the dwelling place he made boards of acacia wood standing up. The length of each board was 10 cubits, and the width of each board 1.5 cubits. Each board had 2 tenons for binding one to another. So he did to all the boards of the dwelling place. And he made boards for the dwelling place, 20 boards for the south side. And he made 40 sockets of silver to go under the 20 boards, and 2 sockets under each of the boards for its 2 tenons. And for the other side of the dwelling place, for the north side, he made 20 boards. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under the one board, and 2 sockets under the other board. And he made 6 boards for the west side of the dwelling place, and he made 2 boards for the 2 back corners of the dwelling place, and they were double beneath, and similarly they were complete to the top by 1 ring. So he did to both of them for the 2 corners. And there were 8 boards, and there are silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under each of the boards. And he made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the board on the other side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards of the dwelling place at the rear, westward. And he made the middle bar to pass through the board from one end to the other. And he overlaid the boards with gold, and their rings he made of gold to be holders for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. And he made a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine worked linen. It was made with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. And he made 4 columns of acacia wood for it, and overlaid them with gold, with their hooks of gold. And he cast 4 sockets of silver for them. And he made a covering for the tent door of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen made by a weaver, and its 5 columns with their hooks. And he overlaid their tops and their rings with gold, but their 5 sockets were of bronze. Shemoth Exodus chapter 37. And Mitsrayim made the ark of acacia wood 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. And he overlaid it with clean gold inside and outside, and made a molding of gold all around it. And he cast 4 rings of gold for it, for its 4 feet, 2 rings on its one side, and 2 rings on its other side. And he made poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with gold. And he put the poles into the rings at the sides of the ark to lift the ark. And he made a lid of atonement of clean gold, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide. And he made 2 cherubim of beaten gold. He made them from the 2 ends of the lid of atonement. And cherub at one end of this side, and the other cherub at the other end on that side. He made the cherubim from the lid of atonement from the 2 ends. And the cherubim spread out their wings above, and covered the lid of atonement with their wings, with their faces toward each other. The faces of the cherubim were turned toward the lid of atonement. And he made the table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, and 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. And he overlaid it with clean gold, and made a molding of gold all around it. And he made a rim of a handbreadth all around it, and made a molding of gold for the rim all around it. And he cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put the rings on the 4 corners that were at its 4 legs. The rings were next to the rim as holders for the poles to lift the table. And he made the poles of acacia wood to lift the table, and overlaid them with gold. And he made the utensils which were on the table, its dishes and its cups and its bowls and its jars for pouring of clean gold. And he made the lampstand of clean gold. He made the lampstand of beaten work, its base and its shaft, its cups, its ornamental knobs, and its blossoms were from it. And 6 branches came out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. There were 3 cups like almond flowers on one branch, with ornamental knob and blossom, and 3 cups like almond flowers on the other branch, a knob and a blossom. So for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. And on the lampstand were 4 cups like almond flowers, its knobs and blossoms, and a knob on the first 2 branches of the same. and a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, for the 6 branches coming out of it. Their knobs and their branches were of it. All of it was one beaten work of clean gold. And he made its 7 lamps and its snuffers and its trays of clean gold. He made it of a talent of clean gold and all its utensils. And he made the incense altar of acacia wood, a cubit long and a cubit wide, square, and 2 cubits high. Its horns were of it. And he overlaid it with clean gold, its top and its sides all around, and its horns. And he made a molding for it of gold all around it. And he made 2 rings of gold for it under its molding, at its 2 corners on both sides, as holders for the poles with which to lift it. And he made the poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with gold. And he made the set-apart anointing oil, and the clean incense of sweet spices, according to the work of the perfumer. Shemoth Exodus chapter 38. And he made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide, square, and 3 cubits high. And he made its horns on its 4 corners. The horns were of it. And he overlaid it with bronze. And he made all the utensils for the altar, the pots and the shovels and the basins and the forks and the fire holders. He made all its utensils of bronze. And he made a grating for the altar, a bronze network under its rim, midway from the bottom. And he cast 4 rings for the 4 corners of the bronze grating as holders for the poles. And he made the poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with bronze. And he put the poles into the rings on the sides of the altar with which to lift it. He made the altar to hollow with boards, and he made the basin of bronze, and its stand of bronze, from the bronze mirrors of the serving women who did service at the door of the tent of meeting. And he made the courtyard for the south side. The screens of the courtyard were of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long. There are 20 columns, and there are 20 sockets of bronze. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver. And for the north side the screens were 100 cubits long. There are 20 columns, and there are 20 sockets of bronze. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver. And for the west side there were screens of 50 cubits. There are 10 columns, and there are 10 sockets. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver. And for the east side eastward 50 cubits. 50 cubits of screens on the one side, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And 15 cubits of screens the other side of the courtyard gate, on this side and that side, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. All the screens of the courtyard all around were of fine woven linen. And the sockets for the columns were of bronze. The hooks of the columns and their bands were of silver, and the overlay of their tops was of silver. And all the columns of the courtyard had bands of silver. And the covering for the gate of the courtyard was the work of an embroiderer, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen, and 20 cubits long. And the height along its width was 5 cubits, corresponding to the screens of the courtyard. And the columns were 4, and their sockets of bronze 4. Their hooks were of silver, and the overlay of their tops and their bands was of silver. And all the pegs of the dwelling place and of the courtyard all around were of bronze. These were the appointments of the dwelling place of the witness, which was appointed by the command of Moshe, for the service of the Levites by the hand of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest. And Bethuel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah, made all that Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And with him Aholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and designer, an embroiderer in blue and purple and scarlet material, and in fine linen. All the gold prepared for the work, and all the work of the set-apart place. And it was the gold of the wave offering, came to be 29 talents and 730 shekels, according to the shekel of the set-apart place. And the silver from the ones counted of the congregation was 100 talents and 1,775 shekels, according to the shekel of the set-apart place. A big half a shekel for a head, according to the shekel of the set-apart place, for everyone passing over, to those counted from 20 years old and above, for 603,550 men. And 100 talents of silver were for casting the sockets of the set-apart place, and the bases of the veil 100 sockets from the 100 talents, a talent for each socket. And of the 1,775 shekels he made hooks for the columns, and overlaid their tops, and made bands for them. And the bronze of the wave offering was 70 talents, and 2,400 shekels. And with it he made the sockets for the door of the tent of meeting, and the bronze altar, and the bronze grating for it, and all the utensils for the altar, and the sockets for the courtyard all around, and the bases for the courtyard gate, and all the pegs for the dwelling place, and all the pegs for the courtyard all around. Shemoth Exodus chapter 39. And of the blue and purple and scarlet material they made woven garments to do service in the set-apart place. And they made the set-apart garments which were for Aaron, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he made the shoulder garment of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen. And they beat out sheets of gold, and cut it into threads, to work it in with the blue and purple and scarlet material, and the fine linen, the work of a skilled workman. They made shoulder pieces for it to join to. It was joined at its two edges. And the embroidered band of his shoulder garment that was on it was of the same work of gold, and blue, and purple, and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And they made the shohan stones set in plated work of gold, engraved as signets, or engraved according to the names of the sons of Yisra'ٰ�l. And he put them on the shoulders of the shoulder garment, stones of remembrance for the sons of Yisra'ٰ�l, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he made the breastplate a work of a skilled workman, like the work of the shoulder garment of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen. It was square. They made the breastplate double, its length a span, its width a span doubled, and they filled it with 4 rows of stones. A row of ruby, a topaz, and an emerald was the first row. And the second row a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row a beryl, a shohan, and a jasper, set in plated work of gold in their settings. And the stones were according to the names of the sons of Yisra'ėl, 12 according to their names, engraved like a signet, each one with its own name according to the 12 tribes. And they made braided chains of corded work for the breastplate of the ends of clean gold. And they made 2 settings of gold, and 2 gold rings, and put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And they put the 2 cords of gold in the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate. And the 2 ends of the 2 cords they fastened in the 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the shoulder garment in the front. And they made 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate on the edge of it, which was on the inward side of the shoulder garment. And they made 2 gold rings, and put them on the 2 shoulder pieces underneath the shoulder garment on the front of it, close to its seam above the embroidered band of the gold shoulder garment. And they bound the breastplate by means of its rings to the rings of the shoulder garment with a blue cord, so that it would be above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, and that the breastplate would not come loose from the shoulder garment, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he made the robe of the shoulder garment of woven work, all of blue. And the opening of the robe was in the middle, like the opening in a scale armor, with a woven binding all around the opening, so that it would not tear. And they made on the hem of the robe pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet material twined. And they made bells of clean gold, and put the bells between the pomegranates on the hem of the robe all around between the pomegranates. A bell and a pomegranate, a bell and a pomegranate, all around the hem of the robe for the service as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And they made the long shirt of fine linen, the work of a weaver, for Aaron and his sons. And a turban of fine linen, and the turban ornaments of fine linen, and short trousers of fine woven linen, and a girdle of fine woven linen with blue and purple and scarlet material, the work of an embroiderer, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And they made the plate of the set-apart sign of dedication of clean gold, and wrote on it an inscription like the engraving of a signet, set apart to Yahuwah. And they put on it a blue cord to fasten it above on the turban, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And all the work of the dwelling place of the tent of meeting was completed. And the children of Yisrael did according to all that Yahuwah had commanded Moshe, so they did. And they brought the dwelling place to Moshe, the tent and all its furnishings, its hooks, its boards, its bars, and its columns, and its sockets. And the covering of rams' skins dyed red, and the covering of fine leather, and the veil of the covering, the ark of the witness with its poles, and the lid of atonement, the table and all its utensils, and the showbread, the clean lampstand with its lamps, the lamps to be put in order, and all its utensils, and the oil for light, and the altar of gold, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the covering for the tent door, the bronze altar and its bronze grating, its poles and all its utensils, the basin with its stand, the screens of the courtyard, its columns and its sockets, the covering for the courtyard gate, its cords and its pegs, and all the utensils for the service of the dwelling place for the tent of meeting. The woven garments to do service in the set-apart place, the set-apart garments for Aaron the priest and his sons, garments to serve as priests, according to all that Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. So the children of Yisrael did all the work. And Moshe looked over all the work, and saw they did as Yahuwah had commanded. So they had done, and Moshe blessed them. Shemoth, Exodus chapter 40. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, On the first day of the first month, you are to raise up the dwelling place of the tent of meeting, and shall put in it the ark of the witness, and screen the ark with the veil. And you shall bring in the table, and arrange what belongs on it, and bring in the lampstand, and light its lamps. And you shall set the altar of gold for the incense before the ark of the witness, and put up the covering of the door to the dwelling place. And you shall set the altar of the burnt offering before the door of the dwelling place of the tent of meeting, and shall set the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and shall put water therein. And you shall set up the courtyard all around, and shall place the covering of the courtyard gate, and shall take the anointing oil, and anoint the dwelling place, and all that is in it, and shall set it and all its utensils apart, and it shall be set apart. And you shall anoint the altar of the burnt offering and all its utensils, and set the altar apart, and the altar shall be most set apart. And you shall anoint the basin and its stand, and set it apart. And you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the door of the tent of meeting, and wash them with water. And you shall put the set-apart garments on Aaron, and anoint him, and set him apart to serve as priest to me. And you shall bring his sons, and put long shirts on them, and shall anoint them as you anointed their father, and they shall serve as priests to me. And the anointing shall be for them an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations. And Moshe did according to all that Yahuwah had commanded him, so he did. And it came to be in the first month of the second year, on the first day of the month, that the dwelling place was raised up. And Moshe raised up the dwelling place, and placed its sockets, and set up its boards, and put in its bars, and raised up its columns, and spread the tent over the dwelling place, and put the covering of the tent on top of it, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he took the witness, and put it into the ark. And he put the poles through the rings of the ark, and put the lid of atonement on top of the ark, and brought the ark into the dwelling place, and placed the veil of the covering to screen off the ark of the witness, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he put the table in the tent of meeting on the north side of the dwelling place outside the veil, and set the bread in order upon it before Yahuwah, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he put the lampstand in the tent of meeting opposite the table on the south side of the dwelling place, and lit the lamps before Yahuwah, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he put the gold altar in the tent of meeting in front of the veil, and burned sweet incense on it, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he set up the covering to the door of the dwelling place. And he put the altar of burnt offering before the door of the dwelling place of the tent of meeting, and offered upon it the burnt offering and the grain offering, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he put the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and put water therein for washing. And Moshe and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet with water from it. As they went into the tent of meeting, and as they came near the altar, they would wash, as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe. And he raised up the courtyard all around the dwelling place and the altar, and placed the covering of the courtyard gate. And Moshe completed the work. And the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the esteem of Yahuwah filled the dwelling place. And Moshe was not able to come into the tent of meeting, because the cloud dwelt on it. And the esteem of Yahuwah filled the dwelling place. And when the cloud was taken up from above the dwelling place, the children of Yisra'ėl went onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not set out till the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of Yahuwah was on the dwelling place by day, and fire was on it by night, before the eyes of all the house of Yisrael and all their journeys.